Check. Okay. So we are actually live. All right, what's up, guys? It's Jacob with Rise and Land Clearing Growth for our Friday morning live Q&A. Sorry, I had some technical difficulties with the link this morning, but I'll be watching for any questions here. And if there's not any questions that come up quick, I'll just cover a few things I wanted to cover, which mainly in this week include pricing, because lots of people have been asking about that. And then there was one other thing I wanted to cover along that same kind of lines of pricing, but I'll watch for y'all's questions first. What's up, Austin? Sorry for the link troubles. Day rate versus project price. So everybody likes to have a day rate. I shouldn't say everybody. Most people like to have a day rate. Guys, I should say, the operators. I do like for folks to know that, but I tend to see less weird conversations with the customers and more profit when you price by the job or by the project. And I think that you have a less confused customer and you have less options for them. It's like, hey, yes or no versus, well, do I want to do 3 days or 4 days? It's like, hey, here's the project you need done. Here's the scope of it. I'm going to educate you on what would be best in your situation based on your needs and wants. And this is what it would cost to solve that problem. I think because there's a good quote like, confused customers don't buy. But that kind of also goes in with options. Like, if that's why, like, the biggest restaurants or the most successful restaurants tend to have like the simplest menus, for that reason. But even then, you still get people that come up to the register and they're just like, versus, if you had one main option, or you recommend it, like fancier restaurants, like high-end restaurants, a lot of times they recommend, like, you sit down and they're like, hey, here's what we recommend for the night. Here's the chef's special or whatever. And people are just like, yeah, let me get that. um, kind of comparing apples to oranges, but still you're comparing the psychology of buyer behavior, basically. I do think day rate is going to end up being the way to go for bigger projects where it's going to be ongoing and maybe the scope is not even fully put out for you yet. Like, if you're talking hundreds of acres, over time. But those are higher level customers who are going to more so understand that type of thing. It's either going to be a developer or a really big landowner, and they'll understand. It'd be hard to give a project price on a 1 year, 10,000 acre project, because so many things could change. So I do think it's good to have a day rate for sure. In terms of pricing, I made a little video yesterday that was just kind of talking about, if customers search for you and they can't figure out ballpark pricing of your business within a few seconds, one of two things is going to happen. They're going to move on to find some other source of information that will give it to them, which in most cases is going to be a competitor, or they're going to be really interested in your service, and if they can't figure out pricing, they have no clue that they maybe can't even come close to affording it. Then they're going to become a lead in your system, and you're going to call it a tire kicker that wasted your time because they can't afford it. When in reality, if you would have just educated on the front end of your pricing, your value, how it gets to there, and ballpark, I wouldn't recommend just throwing your day rate out, and unless you've done that and you tested it and it works, that's fine. But just having ranges is what's super important. Then if they see, oh, forestry mulch 1 acre is $2,000 and they have $200, they're going to be like, oh man, yeah, this service is out of my budget. I'll just move on until I'm ready. Then you don't have to have spent time and effort and plugged up your CRM with people that can't afford it. But if you don't want to put in that effort, then don't complain when you have to do that. Is my PSA on that one. And then the other thing I talked about was you can do this all kinds of ways, whether it's just simple post or FAQs or videos, which I recommend always doing. But you can also have special tools, surveys ahead of your lead form to kind of allow people to answer questions and get what I call an instant estimate at the end based on their questions that uses the logic from your pricing model on the back end to give them a range of, if they have medium dense 5 acres with flat terrain within 50 miles of you and they want it done in 2 months, they answer all these questions, and then the logic's able to put out an estimate for them saying it's going to be $10,000 to $15,000 based on your responses. Here's a explanation of why, and if you wanted to take the next step, here it is. Yeah, absolutely. I could actually do. Austin asked if we could share the pricing tool. I could actually do a live demo for it. That right there is a good question, Austin. So Austin asked, or is it just for your paying clients? Currently, this pricing tool is just for my paying clients. I have toyed with the idea of offering it to everyone for a small fee and then maybe a one-time setup if they didn't want to set it up themselves. But let me pull it up. Okay, I will share my screen here. I basically have a templated one, so it has a lot of features on it, or I should say a lot of options. In reality, you would want to have less options and more specific pictures, right? So these are all just like either stock or AI photos for the demo, right? But you would want your actual stuff in here, and you can add all kinds of stuff. Like I would recommend we do this for our clients, putting like a little short 60-second explainer video about this. Like, hey, thank you so much for checking us out. Below, we have our instant estimate tool, which is super exciting. All you have to do, click a few buttons, answer a few questions, and you will actually get an instant estimate on what it would cost to have your land cleared, forestry mulch, or set up for fire mitigation. So click those below, answer a few questions, and in a couple seconds, you'll have an instant estimate. And if it's something you like, there's an option to book a time with us to get a full quote, something like that. So let's see. You should be seeing this. Austin, will you just comment real quick if you're seeing? I keep popping back to the infinite. I can script that. Okay. Okay, so just to show you how this works, and all the colors and stuff are customizable. It's just sort of stock right now. So you set it up again with your main services that you want. Now, if you offer like all different kinds of stuff, that's up to you if you want to put it in there, but I would recommend using this for like your core services. So let's just do forestry mulching. We'll go next. So how many acres do you need mulched? Let's go with 4. And there's always going to be a little explainer. This stuff is customizable as well. Next, what's the vegetation density like? Denser growth requires more time and heavier equipment. It's always good to just put a little bit of education in there. And again, real pictures from your area, like what the trees look like. Like, don't put giant redwoods if you're in Florida. You know what I mean? Make it relevant. And again, all of this you see here is customizable. We have a foundation and lots of templates that are pretty close to relevancy for land clearing and forestry mulching, but we are going to want to customize that to your language or area, etc. What's your goal for this project? So some of this stuff doesn't necessarily tie to the price, but it just gives you more information once it comes through. Improve property, prep for construction, wildlife access, increase usable space. Let's do that. And then how soon they want it. You can tie prices to this. So like, say they have an emergency, something, they want it done like next week, and you have the capacity to do that with your schedule, but you could charge 10% more, or you don't have to have any percentages tied to that. And then they're just going to put in their info. So this is the win-win. They put in the work with all these questions. They just got to put in their quick info, which you can change this. If you don't want them to have to put in all of this, they could just put in their zip code or something. But I feel like you should always get it, right? So they put in their info. They click see your estimate. So their estimate's going to get emailed to them, but then they're also just going to see it. So this is the important part. It spits out a range, never gives them a full price. So it gives them the base cost, which that base cost you set. It gives them an explainer of how everything else got to that point. And then it shows them the cost estimate range. And then there's a whole explainer. What do you get for your money? What's included? Where's all that money go? Disclaimer, this is an estimate. And all this is customizable, but we have a template for you. And then the cool thing is, instead of you telling them the price, it's the things that they selected got to this price. It's kind of like if you were going to customize a car or build a house, and it's like, oh yeah, I want all this stuff. And then you realize the price, and you're like, oh, okay, that's out of budget. Let me cut back. So they're like, okay, maybe I don't want 4 acres. Maybe I just want 2 acres. So they can just edit it right there at the end screen, and then the price will change. Very cool. Very cool feature, I think. But then this is also a perfect time for you to call them and be like, hey, I just saw you got to use our instant estimate tool. Tell me what you think about it. And if that's in your range, I would love to come out and give you, a straight quote. Very cool. And again, you can put videos on each page of this to kind of help out with that process. And then what I like to do also is incentivize it. And I've been testing this for a few months. I don't have a ton of data, but I have been testing the fact that I do like 20% off if you use this instant estimate tool, because really it's benefiting you and them. And you do with that 20%, how you want to do it. But if they use the tool, they're going to be more educated before they come to you, and you're going to have more information about them before you ever talk to them. So you're just incentivizing the use of it, and you're incentivizing them giving you their information. And that's why this tool across the board, across service businesses, increases lead flow from traffic. So big distinction there. If you're already getting people onto your website, this will increase leads from traffic by 300%, 3 times. That's proven, which is super cool. And to be honest, in the land clearing space, it would be a win if guys just had any kind of information about their pricing out there for somebody to find. But you add in something like this, then that's kind of that next level. Get some coffee here. But yeah, so that is the pricing tool. Again, currently only offered to our clients, but if it's something you would want to play around with, just send me a message and we can talk about it. Let's see what else I had on my notes here. I put the thumbnail on here as staying busy in the winter. um, because lots of guys get worried about the winter. And I hope that if y'all are watching this or you're watching it later, you follow me on some type of social media, but I've been posting our client wins like crazy uh, for multiple reasons. One, because it's awesome and it gets me hyped up. But guys are staying busy. Like Austin's a good example. There's many others that I think we have probably 20 guys now that have reached out and told us that they're already booking into January of next year. So when you do it right and you have more opportunities than you can handle, and people are coming to you and you're not having to chase them, you get into these positions where you're landing jobs and you're booking out, right? And then your next problem to solve is capacity, right? What are you capable of? But there are so many guys who, even without good marketing or any marketing at all, just through word of mouth and referrals, a lot of times will stay decently busy by their own terms in the summer and spring and summer. And then all of a sudden fall and winter comes and they didn't plan for it. They didn't have any kind of predictable flow of opportunity. And now they're, dead in the water. And then there's another example of folks that get plenty of opportunities, but ignored them while they were busy because they didn't have any any good system and attention in place to be working leads. And now all of a sudden there's a year of leads behind them. They have no work. They could have work, but now they're having to, go back through and re-engage and stuff like that. So it's one thing to watch for is it doesn't matter how busy you are, you still need to be working your leads. Your customer deserves it. Your money deserves it. Your business deserves it. Future you deserves it. That's just a big point in a circle of life I've seen fail too many times, or not necessarily fail, but just, not do as well as you should. Oh yeah, but client wins. I was just going to read those. If anybody has any more questions or you're coming in late, this is just a very informal live Q&A for land clearing companies. And I put the title on there, Staying Busy in the Winter, because, that's a lot of guys fear that. And it's completely reasonable to stay busy in the winter. In fact, October has historically always been one of our busiest months for us and our clients over the past 4 years, just to give you a little bit of motivation there. And if you don't know who I am, you're new maybe, haven't ever seen any of my stuff, my name is Jacob with Rise and Land Clearing Growth. We are what I consider us to be is growth partners for land clearing businesses, but on paper, we're a full-service digital marketing agency for land clearing companies. But over the years, due to the demand and what people have asked for and what I've seen and what we've been able to help guys with, we do a lot more than just run ads, right? We partner with you. We want to help you grow. I've got scripts and templates from ads to phone calls to filming videos to helping you close deals. I have the 72-hour booking machine, which is known to increase lead to close by 3.5x. And we have account management. One of the biggest differentiators of our service is we have US account managers who are available to you daily, that you can just pick up the phone and call or text, and we're there talking about your account, talking about strategy. I've been on the other side of working with agencies, and I know how frustrating it can be to just send an email and have no clue when they're going to get back to you, or have to submit an inquiry and just hope they get back to you. So that's one thing I'm really big on is, our communication and customer service. I can't remember exactly where I was going now, but I think I was just telling everybody about ourselves. But so every week I have a client win channel in our Slack channel where the account managers talk about wins that they got. So like on Tuesday, Pam put that Midwest landed a 22K job. Clearview Brush Control They're super happy, booked out until January of 26. Owen with Mo Land Pros has been killing it. He's been landing jobs left and right, and he was what I'd consider a newer company. He came from another service and then started focusing on land clearing. But he's landed a ton of jobs in just 2 or 3 months. But he texted in, landed a 15K job that I'm starting tomorrow. J&D, within 2 hours of Google Ads being live, they were able to land their first 6-acre job. Very cool. Clearview also booked out until 2026. And he was with us a few months as well. Who else put one? Oh, Jerry went live on September 17th and has already been paid over $12,000 and sent in like 30,000 in estimates that he put out, which is pretty sweet. Devin from Southern Charm, he's on a 3,000 acre property, and it was $250,000. Was able to buy a new machine, hire a couple guys, young guy, newer business, super cool. We had Brian with B&B send in a video talking about us, which I posted. It was super cool. You can go check it out. But he was just basically saying that before working with us 2 years ago, he just relied on word of mouth. He would get a few jobs a month. And now he says 95% of his work comes from our efforts and that he turns away work. So that's definitely a cool place to be. Anyways, point being, those are all people that have texted in this week. So if you're not busy right now, not enough people know you exist, right? That's the short version of it. Austin, I saw you talked with Brushworks again, and I saw he got one of the remote control mulchers, which is super cool. We just actually hired on a client this week who has one of those remote control mulchers in Virginia, I believe. So that is super exciting. I guess these are going to start becoming more popular. I really like the idea of, it being able to get into places that other mulchers can't safely and efficiently. And I really like that you could potentially open up your customer base to other land clearing companies. Like you could contract to them to come in and, get their tight spaces. It seems like a really good addition to a company. So I'm excited to see, how everybody's results are with those remote control mulchers. Guys, if y'all have any questions, drop them. I think I hit all the big points I wanted to hit this morning. Let's see if there was anything else I was going to look at. Yeah, I think that was everything that I wanted to cover this morning. So, guys, if you're here or you're jumping on, any questions you may have about growing a land clearing company, marketing a land clearing company, getting more land clearing opportunities, closing more jobs from those opportunities, anything like that, I'd be more than happy to cover, answer, or ask. And if you're watching later, please feel free to send me a message, email, text, call, whatever, and would be more than happy to answer your questions, or come up maybe with a topic for the next Q&A. I do these every Friday morning at 7 a.m. Once I get into a little bit of a groove and kind of get more people watching and more people in our school group, I will probably try to do a few more videos throughout the week. But to that point, if you feel like you're at a point where you would like a company like us to come in and take over this department of your business for you and help you grow, the way to start that would be going to growth.riseonlineads.com. And there's a video there that explains more about our service and who it's best for and who it's not for. And if it seems like you are for it, then there is just a calendar right below it to book a time for us to talk on a Zoom call. We'll look up the real data for your area. I'll show you real data from successful companies, what they're spending, what they're making, how it works, all that stuff. Not really a huge sales pitch, just, hey, this is what it is, this is how it works, and this is what the investment is, based on what you can handle. So yeah, growth.riseonlineads, the link should also be in the description if you want to do that. And if you are not ready for that, what I would suggest, besides just watching more of our videos, and hey, Zach, yes, sir, I'll answer that question in just 1 second. If you don't feel like you're ready to work with us, watch our videos. We have lots of good stuff, but also we have a school group, which is free to join, and then very cheap per month. So if you wanted to jump into that school group, it's just school.com/land-clearing-growth. And I've got tons of training videos in there, tons of downloadable content that you can use to grow your business yourself. Mr. Zach, thank you for the question. So what is a good return on ad spend? Personally, I like to see a 10x. Now we have guys that, get 100x. That's the cool thing about land clearings when you land these big jobs. But yeah, 10x is really what I like to see. In terms of what is good, the golden rule that I've always been told, and that my good friend and mentor, Alex Hormozy, talks about a lot, is your ROAS should be able to get you more customers in the door, right? So if you're spending money on ads and your cost to acquire a client ends up being $1,000, so that was your cost to acquire a client, $1,000, but that client pays you $3,000, right? So then your return on ad spend is 3x, right? So with that 3x, then you could go get 2 more clients, right? So it costs you $1,000, you make $3,000, so your net's $2,000. Then you can take each one of those 2,000s and go get 2 more customers. Now the cool thing is when you're 1 to 10, right? So it costs you $1,000 to get a client, and you make $10,000 on that. Then you can go use that money to get 9 more clients, right? Now that's sort of a very general, vague explanation, because you're going to have expenses and gross profit margins and all this stuff in there. But yeah, I'd really like to see a 10x or more return on ad spend. So if you're spending, $1,000, I would at least want you to get 10,000, which is insanely reasonable in this industry. For our business, I look at return on investment. So basically your ad spend plus what you're paying me, the average across all of our clients is a 7x. So if you're spending, 5,000 a month with us and 5,000 a month on ads, so you're spending 10,000 total, I would want you to be getting 70,000. And that's kind of our average across all of our clients. Once I kind of pulled the data, we have like our worst clients maybe get a 3 to 5x. And then of course we have plenty of guys, like our top 10% of guys are getting 100x or more. Like our guys in Tennessee that told me that last month they did $450,000 and they paid us like 4,000 and spend like 2,000 per platform. So they spend like 8,000 and they make 450,000. So that return on investment is pretty big. Yeah, that one was super, super cool to hear. And the reason that number really like resonates and is super significant is because their first year, like when we first met them and they weren't working with us, they made about $500,000 in that year, and now they've made it in a month. Pretty cool. But a lot of that is, yes, attributed to them working with us and us giving them lots of opportunities and optimizing, but they also are killers. He's got an entire office staff now. They've added machines, they've added crews, they work the leads meticulously, they follow the 72-hour booking machine to the T. They make sure everyone that can and is any bid qualified gets an estimate within that 72-hour window, and 90% of the time in person. And so I attribute a lot of that success to them taking what we do and run with it, But no, yeah, I love that question, the ROAS, and that's I made a video one time that talks about how much. What did I title it? It was like how much should I spend versus how much can I spend? And when you're looking and thinking about ROAS, that's when you can have that question of what can I spend? Because if you could spend $1,000 and make 10,000, why would you not? Or what is stopping you from spending 10,000 to make 100,000 or more? That would be the question. And then whatever that bottleneck is, that like if you can't do $100,000 in work physically, then you can't spend that to get it right. It doesn't make sense. So you have to work towards that and get to that capacity. Which I'm glad both of you are here, Zach and Austin, because I posted that video a while back on TikTok talking about potential, because I'd done like hours and hours of research based on acres and land development and machines and search volume and all kinds of stuff to see what was possible in like markets, because guys always talk about their markets being saturated and is there work and all this stuff. And people just roast me in the comments saying that $2 million a year is just not possible in land clearing in their area. And they like are even laughing at it. And I'm like, dude, I literally tell them, like, I feel bad for you. Like, don't let your beliefs keep you from getting where you could get just because you don't believe it's possible. Like, I could show you plenty of guys making $2 million a year and they're growing. But anyways, what machines are those guys running? The Yard Force, they have all of the machines, but I don't think they have any really big stuff. They're running skid steers and excavators, mini excavators. Now, the Yard Force does also have a hardscape side of their business. And that's not the bulk of it. The bulk of what they do is still land clearing, but they end up like also, sort of upselling their other services at the job, which I think really helps as well. Really, really helps. What's average gross profit you hear from guys? I'll be completely honest. Most guys do not understand what that is. Most guys. That's probably a whole side of business education. I should probably get some documentation and teaching out there on. And I think this is common across blue collar. Like people just they don't quite understand it. And even profit, just talking profit versus revenue is one thing that's kind of hard to get guys on board with. But then you start talking about, gross profit, lifetime gross profit, cost to acquire client, AOV, you start really getting guys confused. But I will say, one of our clients that was thinking he was dissatisfied recently, we finally got all the numbers out of him, and in a 6-month span he had gotten a 9x return on his investment spent with us. And he was talking to me about profit, and he was like, well, revenue doesn't really matter, it's only profit that matters. And I was like, well, yes, as a business owner I do 100% agree with you, but it's kind of hard for in my position to compare your profit versus what I've done for you, because it doesn't necessarily involve me, right? If I get the exact same results for two different guys, but one guy just has more expensive trucks, more expensive machines, pays his people more, why does that punish my performance metrics, right? But I said, let's do it anyways. And so we figured up his profit. He gave me all of his expenses. We pulled his P&Ls and everything. And he had made a 4.5x profit in those 6 months. I would venture to say, and so that's a profit versus money spent, not necessarily his gross profit. So kind of a long form answer of telling you, I don't know. Nobody tells me their gross profit. And I think because most people just don't know, they don't know it. Until I build a really good relationship with guys, those are not always the questions that I'm asking. But that's some good feedback. I probably should. This year, we've started really trying to figure out more of their revenue and getting guys to tell us more about the jobs they're landing and document it, because historically, I wouldn't even know guys were getting jobs unless I read their messages or they, I saw them on Facebook or Snapchat or something, because they just weren't telling me, but I also wasn't asking as often as I should. And so now the account managers are asking this stuff every week. Hey, you got 10 leads. I see 8 of them were responsive. How many were you able to give an estimate, and how many did you land? And that's another reason why I'm getting all of these wins that I get to share, because we're asking more, and so we're getting more information, and then full circle, the results are getting better because we're able to optimize further based on that data, which is super cool. But I do love that question. Gross profit. I would love to know some of these guys, cost to acquire versus lifetime gross profit, when they've gotten some of these contracts, or guys doing work at the border, or guys doing right of way, or working with power companies, and they spent $200 to get a client, and they made $500,000 from it. It's those numbers are pretty sweet. All right, guys. I appreciate everybody who took the time to listen and talk and ask questions this morning. I'm going to jump off, that way I can prepare for my next call, which is actually with Austin. So go check his out. Check out Austin and the Owner Ops. He's amazing at asking questions and prompting and providing information. So it will be probably a lot more exciting call than this. But next week, Friday, if you're watching the replay of this next week, Friday, 7 a.m., come jump in, have some questions answered, create some discussion. Would love to talk. Again, the links are in the description if you want to work with us, growth.riseonlineads.com. And if you want to join the school group, that link is there as well. And I appreciate y'all's time. Talk soon.